Welcome, dear listener, to the world asleep. Tonight, our journey drifts back 5,000 years to the quiet banks of the Indus River, where one of humanity's first great civilizations once breathed and dreamed. Long before the rise of Greece, long before the walls of Babylon, cities thrived here, vast, orderly, and full of life. They called no kings by name, carved no triumphs into stone, and left behind no words that we can read. Yet their legacy endures in the bricks of Mohenjo-Daro, in the wells of Harappa, in the fragments of seals pressed by hands now turned to dust. The Indus Valley civilization, the world's oldest urban culture, remains a riddle half solved, its language silent, its people unseen. As the modern world sleeps, let us walk those ancient streets once more, where lamps once glowed beside quiet courtyards, and the river murmured through the night. And before we begin, I wonder, from what corner of the world are you listening tonight? If you feel moved to share, your voice joins ours, a quiet constellation of curious souls. Now, take a deep breath and follow me into the Valley of the Lost Cities. Chapter 1: The River and the Birth of Cities. The Indus River begins high in the Himalayas, where snowmelt gathers into streams that tumble down mountainsides, joining to form a slow, patient current that winds through the plains of what is now Pakistan and northwestern India. Its waters, rich with silt, have carried life for millennia. To follow the Indus is to trace one of the oldest arteries of human civilization, a river that has seen empires rise, fade, and return to dust. Thousands of years ago, before the pyramids had reached their peak, people settled along these fertile banks. The land was gentle and generous, the monsoon rains steady enough to feed crops but mild enough to spare devastation. Wheat, barley, peas, and dates flourished in the deep, dark soil. Herds of cattle grazed near the water. The river gave them everything: water to drink, food to grow, a route to trade, a rhythm to life. In time, the small villages grew, and out of that slow, steady growth emerged something new in human history: true cities. Not the crowded citadels of conquest, nor the temporary camps of nomads, but living networks of homes, streets, and workshops built with vision, precision, and peace. The Indus people built their cities with baked brick, tens of thousands of identical, perfectly proportioned bricks, shaped in molds and hardened by fire. With them, they laid out streets in straight lines, forming grids that met at right angles. Each block was carefully measured. Drainage systems ran beneath the streets, carrying away water and waste. Public wells dotted every neighborhood, offering cool, clear water to all. Even the smallest homes had bathing areas, and some had drains that connected to the city's main channels. To walk through these cities would have felt astonishingly familiar to a modern traveler: clean, organized, alive with quiet activity. Clay lamps glowed in doorways. Merchants weighed grain on bronze scales. Children ran along narrow lanes, their laughter echoing against sun-baked walls. Craftsmen shaped pottery on wheels, etched seals with intricate animals, hammered copper into tools. The air would have smelled of baked earth, of spice, of rain evaporating on stone. Two of these cities became famous: Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro. They were among the largest of their age, vast, complex, meticulously planned. Harappa, to the north, stood near fertile plains that stretched endlessly toward the horizon. Mohenjo-Daro, farther south, rose beside the lower Indus, its walls built above flood levels, its streets aligned with the flow of the wind to cool the homes. Together, they were the heart of the Indus Valley civilization, a network that spanned hundreds of settlements across nearly 1 million square kilometers. And yet, even as they grew to such scale, there was no evidence of conquest, no monuments to kings, no armies carved into reliefs, no walls of war. Their power lay not in domination, but in harmony, in a shared rhythm that bound farmers, artisans, and traders into a seamless whole. It is this quiet order that makes the Indus cities feel so extraordinary. Every brick, every drain, every courtyard seems to echo a single vision: balance. Their planners valued symmetry and function. Their society seemed to prize cleanliness and equality. The great granaries, where grain was stored for the community, speak not of greed, but of stewardship. The absence of palaces or tombs suggests that wealth was shared, or that power was not flaunted. Perhaps, in this early civilization, there was a sense that the divine was woven into daily life, that to keep one's home clean, to align one's street with the wind, to let water flow freely, was a form of reverence. Their gods, if they were many, left no faces carved into mountains. Instead, their faith seems to have been embedded in rhythm, in the hum of life, in the steady pulse of the river. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing at the edge of Mohenjo-Daro as dusk falls. The sun dips low, turning the bricks to deep orange. The air cools, the wind rising from the river. Smoke curls from hearths. In the distance, you hear the soft murmur of voices, the rhythmic splash of water drawn from a well, the sound of oxen returning from the fields. Lamps flicker one by one, golden against the growing dark. These were not primitive people, nor fragile settlements. The Indus cities were marvels of human cooperation, of quiet ingenuity. They traded far and wide. Their seals have been found in Mesopotamia, suggesting journeys that crossed deserts and seas. Their crafts, beads, ornaments, pottery reveal an artistry at once refined and joyful. And yet, for all their advancement, the people of the Indus left behind no boastful inscriptions, no stories of conquest, no grand declarations. What survives are their patterns, the precise alignment of their streets, the elegance of their designs, the echo of their discipline. Their greatness was quiet, measured in how well they lived, not how loudly they ruled. To stand among their ruins today is to feel not the weight of loss, but the calm of continuity. The same river still flows, the same winds still move across the plains, the same dust still glows under the setting Sunday. Life, though changed, endures here just as it did 5,000 years ago. And beneath that soil, the bricks of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa still lie in perfect lines, their edges softened by time, but their design intact, an ancient geometry that whispers of a civilization that knew order without tyranny, faith without temples, beauty without excess. In the Indus Valley, humanity learned that cities could be places of balance where water flowed cleanly, where trade connected rather than divided, where homes were built not for kings, but for people. This was the birth of something timeless, the city as sanctuary. Chapter 2: Life along the Indus. If you were to walk through the streets of Mohenjo-Daro at dawn, you might first hear the sound of water, the slow, patient creak of a bucket drawn from a well, the quiet splash of washing before the day begins. The air would be cool, faintly scented with earth and smoke. The sun would rise softly over flat rooftops, painting the brick walls with warmth. This was a city alive with simple grace. The people of the Indus Valley lived not in palaces or fortresses, but in homes of uniform brick, sturdy, practical, and peaceful. Each house was built around a small courtyard open to the sky, a place for light, air, and family gatherings. Narrow stairways led to upper floors, where rooftop spaces may have served as gardens or sleeping areas beneath the stars. Within, rooms were arranged with care, a bathing space here, a small storage room there, each connected by drains that carried away used water. Water, in fact, was sacred to their way of life. Every neighborhood had its wells, some private, others shared by many. The city's drains, covered by stone slabs, ran beneath the streets in neat lines, a system so advanced that no other civilization of the same age could compare. Cleanliness was not luxury, it was principle. To the people of the Indus, purity was harmony, and the flow of water through their cities mirrored the flow of life itself. Markets opened as the sun climbed higher. Merchants spread their goods, baskets of grain, pots of honey, oil and spice. Clay jars and bronze vessels gleamed in the morning light. Beads of lapis lazuli and carnelian, polished to a glassy shine, sparkled upon mats of woven reed. From distant lands came copper, gold and ivory. From the highlands, precious stones and timber. Caravans and boats carried these treasures, linking the Indus world with Mesopotamia, Central Asia, and the Persian Gulf. Trade was the lifeblood of their civilization, but it flowed quietly, without kings or conquest, an economy of balance rather than ambition. Artisans worked in workshops near the markets. Potters turned clay on their wheels, shaping jars with a rhythm that echoed the heartbeat of the city. Their pottery was both simple and refined red clay painted with black geometric designs, some adorned with fish, birds, or flowing patterns. Bronze smiths hammered tools and ornaments, their forges glowing softly in shaded courtyards. Bead makers strung jewels of jasper and agate, polishing each until it caught the light like drops of frozen rain. Everywhere, the same sense of order and beauty, no two crafts identical, yet each in harmony with the whole. The people of the Indus did not build pyramids or carve colossal statues. Their greatness was quieter, found in precision, in proportion, in the way each home fit seamlessly within its block, each street within the city's design, each object within its purpose. Children played in the lanes games scratched into the dust, laughter echoing through the alleys. Farmers led oxen from the fields, their ploughs leaving gentle furrows in the moist soil. Women ground grain by hand, baked bread in clay ovens, and painted their pottery with simple designs. Life was busy but unhurried, ordered yet free. There was little sign of division between rich and poor. Houses, though varied in size, were similar in form and structure. Public wells ensured access to clean water for all. The streets were laid out so that every home caught the prevailing wind, carrying cool air through open courtyards. This careful attention to equality and comfort suggests a society built upon shared understanding and early harmony between people and their environment. In the heart of Mohenjo-Daro stood the Great Bath, a rectangular pool built of baked brick, sealed with natural tar to make it watertight. Stairs descended from all sides into its clear, cool water. Around it were small rooms, perhaps for changing or resting. To stand here is to feel the presence of ritual. Whether used for purification, ceremony, or communal gathering, the Great Bath reflects a belief in renewal, the act of washing not merely as cleansing the body, but the spirit. The echoes of this reverence for water flow through India even now, in rivers worshipped and baths taken before prayer. Close your eyes and imagine standing beside that ancient pool. The air is warm, heavy with the scent of baked clay. The water shimmers, reflecting the sunlight that filters through wooden beams above. You hear quiet footsteps, the murmur of voices, the splash of water upon skin. No grand temple towers here. No statue of a god presides, only the stillness of the bath itself, where sacredness and simplicity meet. Religion, if that is what it was, lived in symbols rather than temples. Small seals made of steatite bear images of animals, elephants, bulls, tigers, unicorns, and figures seated in meditation. Some show a horned deity surrounded by beasts, reminiscent of later depictions of Shiva, lord of creation and destruction. Others show women adorned with jewelry, perhaps goddesses of fertility and renewal. These images suggest that divinity was found not in distant heavens, but in the living world, in animals, in water, in the quiet order of life itself. The Indus people left no armies, no kings, no wars carved into stone. Their power was the power of cooperation, of shared understanding, of collective intelligence. To build cities of such complexity without rulers known by name speaks of a social harmony almost unimaginable today. It is as if their civilization was not built on domination, but on consensus, a rhythm of trust that guided their growth for centuries. As the day fades, the city settles again into calm. The heat lifts from the streets, smoke rises in slow spirals from small hearths. Somewhere, a potter covers his wheel, a bead maker sets aside her tools. In the soft glow of evening, families gather in courtyards, eating bread and lentils, sharing stories. A breeze moves through the lanes, carrying the scent of water and earth. Lamps flicker to life, small constellations scattered across the city's grid. It is difficult, standing in that imagined twilight, not to feel a deep sense of peace. These were people who lived without monuments, yet built permanence, who spoke without leaving words, yet left wisdom in their design, who lived quietly, yet whose silence still resounds. In the Indus Valley, life flowed as gently as the river itself, steady, clear, and endlessly renewing. Chapter 3: Gods, Symbols, and the Unreadable Script. When we walk among the ruins of the Indus cities, we find no towering temples, no pyramids, no statues of kings. There are no great inscriptions carved into stone, no proclamations of power or prayer. And yet, the spiritual presence of the Indus people is everywhere, subtle, quiet, and deeply woven into the fabric of their world. It lives in their symbols. It lives in their images. It lives in the silence that they left behind. Among the thousands of artifacts unearthed from Harappa, Mohenjo-Daro, and the smaller towns scattered across the Indus plain, one kind stands apart: the seals. Small squares of carved steatite, no larger than a palm. Each seal bears an image and a line of strange signs, a script that no one has yet read. The images are simple, yet profound. A bull with arched horns, a tiger mid-prowl, an elephant, a rhinoceros, a goat, a fish. Some seals show human or divine figures seated cross-legged, surrounded by animals. Others bear symbols: a tree with roots and branches like lightning, a mountain, a star. These tiny carvings speak of a belief system tied not to conquest, but to nature, where divinity resided in every living form, in the pulse of life itself. Archaeologists often call one of these figures the Pashupati seal, lord of the beasts. The figure sits in meditation, legs crossed, with horns upon his head and animals arrayed around him. His calm, commanding posture suggests both serenity and strength. Many believe he is a precursor to the god Shiva, who in later Hindu tradition is both ascetic and creator, destroyer and protector. If that connection is true, then the spiritual roots of India reach back 5,000 years through silence and stone to this ancient valley. Other seals suggest goddesses women adorned with jewelry, standing beside trees, surrounded by symbols of growth and renewal. Perhaps these were deities of fertility, of harvest, of the cycle of life and death. The reverence for the feminine, for nature, for the balance between creation and decay, it all lingers in the art and the rhythm of Indus life. But beyond the images lies a greater mystery, the writing. The Indus script is made up of more than 400 distinct signs, small, graceful marks carved into seals, pottery, and tablets. They appear to form patterns, perhaps words, perhaps names. Some signs resemble fish, others leaves, waves, or stars. The script is brief, rarely more than 5 to 7 symbols, and because it has not been found alongside any known language, its meaning remains unknown. For more than a century, scholars have tried to read it. Some believe it was a spoken language of Dravidian roots, connected to the tongues still spoken in southern India today. Others think it might not be linguistic at all, but a symbolic code, a language of trade or ritual or identity. Computers have been trained to analyze its patterns, to search for grammar hidden within the marks. Yet still, the script refuses to yield its voice. And so, the people of the Indus remain wordless in our history, a civilization we can see, but not hear. We can walk their streets, touch their pottery, gaze upon their art, but we cannot read what they thought, what they prayed, what they dreamed. Their silence is immense and strangely beautiful. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine holding one of their seals in your hand. It is small, cool, and heavy. You run your thumb over the carved lines, the image of a bull, proud and still, above a row of marks you cannot read. Somewhere, in the distant past, another hand pressed this seal into soft clay, leaving an impression on a jar or a bundle of goods. Perhaps it was a signature, perhaps it was a blessing, perhaps both. You hold in your hand a message across 5,000 years, complete, perfect, and utterly silent. The great bath of Mohenjo-Daro, which we have seen, may also have been part of their spiritual life. Water as renewal, cleanliness as sanctity, these were not mere habits, but rituals. To purify oneself was to align with the natural order, to reflect the balance seen in the heavens and the earth. Even the city's design, symmetrical, orderly, flowing, seems an expression of that same reverence. The sacred was not confined to temples, it was built into every wall, every drain, every brick. In this, the Indus people were perhaps closer to nature than any civilization before or since. They did not carve gods into mountains, they built their worship into the act of living. To walk through their cities was to move through a sacred landscape, one where water, air, earth, and fire each had their place. Even their animals seem to have held symbolic weight. The unicorn, a creature appearing again and again on their seals, may not have been mythic at all, perhaps a stylized bull, or perhaps a symbol of power and purity. The tiger and elephant, too, recur in their art, reminders of both danger and divinity. The more one looks, the clearer it becomes that the Indus world was not divided between sacred and ordinary. The sacred was the ordinary, made visible. Their silence speaks to us in another way too. Most ancient civilizations left behind monuments to kings, their victories, their desires, their glory carved into stone. The Indus left none. Their art shows no battles, no rulers, no weapons of conquest. Instead, it shows animals, trees, and humans in balance. Perhaps theirs was a civilization that believed harmony was the highest expression of power. We cannot know for certain who they worshipped, or how. We can only listen to the spaces between what remains the empty courtyards, the quiet baths, the pattern of the seals, the script that still resists translation. And perhaps, in that silence, there is a lesson that not all wisdom is spoken, not all stories are told in words. When you next look at a photograph of an Indus seal, with its tiny carvings of bulls and stars, imagine that beneath those marks lies the mind of a person, someone who lived, who believed, who reached for meaning. Their language may be lost, but their intention endures. It flows through time like the river itself, unseen, but always there. In that silence, the Indus people speak still, not in words, but in wonder. Chapter 4: The Vanishing of the Indus World. Every civilization carries within it the rhythm of its own passing. For the people of the Indus, there was no great battle, no single day of fire and ruin. Their ending came softly like the fading of a river in drought, like a voice that grows quiet until only the echo remains. For nearly 1,000 years, their cities flourished. The river sustained them, the rains returned each year, and the trade routes stretched outward like threads of silk, connecting their world to distant shores. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, the rhythm began to change. The Indus River, which had long been their guardian and lifeline, began to shift its course. The monsoon patterns that once brought steady rainfall grew erratic. The Saraswati, another great river that may have flowed parallel to the Indus, dried and fragmented into smaller streams. The fertile plains turned dry, the earth hardening under the sunday. Fields that once yielded grain and fruit began to fail. For a people so attuned to nature, these changes must have been felt deeply, not only as hardship, but as imbalance. To live in harmony with the land meant also to feel its sorrow. Perhaps they saw the river's retreat as a sign from the divine, a withdrawal of blessing. Perhaps their rituals turned toward appeasement, their prayers toward renewal. Yet, the change was relentless. As the rains weakened and the rivers shifted, the once lush plains between the Indus and the Ganges began to turn to dust. Wells dried, crops withered. The carefully ordered systems of their cities, the wells, the drains, the baths began to fail. People moved away, following the water, seeking fertile soil. And so the great cities slowly emptied. Mohenjo-Daro, once alive with trade and laughter, grew quiet. The courtyards that had echoed with conversation filled with wind. The great bath gathered dust. The bricks of its streets, baked strong by human hands, stood firm even as the people departed. One by one, lamps went out, doors closed, and the city surrendered to the stillness of the plain. It was not a fall in the sense we often imagine, no invasion, no sudden destruction. There are signs of flooding in some places, of earthquakes in others, but nothing to suggest chaos. Instead, the end seems to have come as gently as the dawn, a gradual ebbing of life as the river turned away. Some believe the arrival of new peoples, the Indo-Aryans from the northwest, played a part in this transition. They may have settled among the remnants of the Indus towns, bringing new languages, new gods, new ways of life. Yet even this was not conquest as much as transformation. The old blended with the new, and the memory of the Indus civilization dissolved slowly into the stream of Indian history, never truly lost, only changed. Close your eyes and imagine the final days of Mohenjo-Daro. The air is dry and still. The river, once broad and gleaming, now lies distant, its banks bare. Dust drifts across empty courtyards. The sound of hammers has ceased. The drains, once full of flowing water, are clogged with silt. The great granary stands silent, its bins empty. A few figures move among the ruins, gathering what can be carried: grain, tools, small seals once pressed into clay. They turn toward the horizon, following the promise of another river, another home, Behind them, the city sleeps, bathed in sunlight and silence. Even as they left, they carried their wisdom with them, the reverence for water, the respect for balance, the quiet faith in nature. These flowed onward like the rivers themselves. When later cultures rose upon the Indian subcontinent, the echoes of the Indus remained. The bathing rituals, the sacred rivers, the veneration of fertility and life, all of these trace their lineage to those ancient cities of brick and dust. It is strange to think that a civilization so advanced could vanish so completely, their language unread, their names unknown, their gods unnamed, and yet their spirit endures, invisible but unbroken. In a way, the Indus people achieved something rare. They left no conquerors, no wars, no tyrants in their wake. They simply lived, and then faded, leaving behind peace instead of ruins of conflict. Today, the wind that moves across the plains of Sindh and Punjab still carries their dust. The river still flows, though its course has changed. Farmers still till the soil, planting seeds where the Indus people once did. Life continues, as it always has. Perhaps that is the truest legacy, that life goes on, that civilizations, like rivers, do not end. They transform, they divide, they merge again downstream. The Indus people may have disappeared, but their story continues in every act of balance, every ritual of water, every quiet respect for the earth. In their passing, they left no cry, no mark of fear, only the soft outline of their cities beneath the sand and the unspoken wisdom that silence can endure longer than speech. As the sun sets on their memory, imagine the last light falling across the ruins of Harappa. The baked bricks glow with a faint warmth. The shadows stretch long across the empty streets. The wind moves through the doorways, whispering through the cracks of time. The river, unseen beyond the horizon, glimmers faintly in the dusk. The Indus Valley civilization did not fall. It exhaled a long, gentle breath and became part of the endless rhythm of the world. Chapter 5: Rediscovery Beneath the Sands. For more than 3,000 years, the cities of the Indus lay forgotten. Their bricks, once warm with sunlight and human touch, were slowly buried by layers of wind-blown dust. The river that had nourished them wandered elsewhere. Travelers passed above the ruins, unaware that beneath their feet slept one of humanity's earliest and greatest civilizations. The land changed hands many times through empires and kingdoms, through centuries of migration and faith. Yet the memory of the Indus people remained hidden, their story sealed beneath the earth, waiting for a patient ear to listen. Then, in the mid-19th century, the silence began to stir. It started, as great discoveries often do, by accident. British engineers working for the colonial railways were laying new tracks across the plains of Punjab. They needed brick strong, uniform, plentiful. In a nearby mound, they found what seemed to be endless quantities. The ancient bricks were large, well-fired, and remarkably intact. Workers pried them loose and fed them into the furnaces that forged the rails of modern India. It was only later that someone wondered where these bricks had come from, why they seemed older, harder, more precise than any known in local memory. Archaeologists began to take notice. The mounds from which the bricks were taken bore traces of pottery, beads, and carved stones, remnants of a world far older than anyone had imagined. Excavations began in the 1922, first at Harappa, then at Mohenjo-Daro. As the spades struck soil and the dust was brushed away, streets appeared straight, aligned, familiar. Beneath the earth, an entire city slept, perfectly preserved. It must have been an astonishing sight, brick walls stretching in perfect order, drainage channels still running beneath the streets, public wells, stairways, granaries, all the signs of a people not primitive but profoundly advanced. The archaeologists walked those ancient streets much as you might walk through a modern town, stunned by the symmetry, the planning, the quiet intelligence embedded in every stone. At first, they could hardly believe what they had found. Civilizations of this age were known in Egypt and Mesopotamia, but here on the plains of South Asia was a culture equally ancient, equally refined, yet entirely unknown. The discovery shifted the world's understanding of human history. In Harappa, the ruins stretched across the horizon, the outlines of streets and homes visible in the dust. Pottery fragments lay scattered like broken memories, still painted with delicate designs. In Mohenjo-Daro, workers uncovered the Great Bath, its brick walls watertight even after 4,000 years. Nearby, they found small seals, ornaments, toys, and tools, the intimate remains of daily life. Every object uncovered seemed to speak of a people who prized cleanliness, precision, and balance. Even the smallest items, a comb, a bead, a seal, bore craftsmanship of astonishing care. Yet, as the ruins emerged, one question lingered: who were these people? Their script was everywhere, on seals, on pottery, on tablets of clay, but no one could read it. Without words, their identity remained elusive. No tombs to name rulers, no inscriptions to record battles, only symbols: a fish, a bull, a star. Their mystery deepened with every discovery. Still, the archaeologists pressed on, mapping city after city: Dolavira, Kalibangan, Lothal. Each site revealed new wonders: docks, reservoirs, warehouses, fortifications. The Indus world expanded across the map, stretching from the Arabian Sea to the foothills of the Himalayas. It became clear that this was no isolated culture, but a vast network of urban life, the first great civilization of the Indian subcontinent. Standing among the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro today, one can still feel that sense of quiet awe. The streets remain straight and true. The wells still descend into the cool earth. The air carries the same dry heat that once shimmered above clay rooftops. It is as if the city has paused, not vanished, as though its people simply stepped away for a moment and never returned. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine being there at dawn when the archaeologists first brushed away the dust from the top of a brick wall. Imagine the silence breaking not with noise, but with recognition. Humanity meeting its own reflection, older than memory, wiser than we knew. For centuries, history had been written by empires that built monuments and carved victories into stone. The Indus people were different. They built no pyramids, no colossal statues, no boasts to kings. Yet, when uncovered, their cities spoke with a kind of quiet perfection that outshone the grandeur of any empire. Their rediscovery was more than an archaeological triumph. It was a rediscovery of humility, a reminder that greatness can exist without arrogance, that harmony can outlast ambition. The Indus civilization whispered a truth that modern humanity often forgets, that the highest order is not control, but balance. In the years since, excavations have continued. Scientists analyze their pottery, their skeletons, their seeds. The story grows richer, more detailed, yet still incomplete. The script remains undeciphered, the names unknown, the stories untold, and perhaps that is as it should be. Some mysteries are not meant to be solved, but to be listened to gently, patiently, as one listens to the river at night. As the last light fades over the plains, imagine standing at the edge of Mohenjo-Daro, looking out across the dust that once held gardens and homes. The air is still. The ruins glow faintly in the dying Sunday. Somewhere beneath your feet lies a fragment of pottery, a bead, a seal, something once touched by a hand 5,000 years ago. The Indus Valley civilization has slept long, but its dream continues through every river that flows, through every act of building, through every quiet respect for the balance of life. Rediscovery is not merely about finding what was lost, it is about remembering what endures. Chapter 6: The Legacy of the Indus. Civilizations are like rivers. They begin as small streams, gathering strength as they flow, branching into many currents, and finally merging with the sea, not ending, but becoming part of something larger. The Indus Valley civilization, though long vanished, has flowed quietly through history in just this way. Its people may have disappeared, but their essence endures in the way villages are still built along rivers, in the rhythm of India's ancient rituals, in the quiet reverence for water and earth that still shapes daily life. When we look at the Indus cities, their measured streets, their careful design, we see not only architecture, but philosophy, a belief that life should be balanced, that nature and human order can coexist. Their wells and baths were not luxuries, but expressions of gratitude toward water, the same gratitude that now fills the banks of the Ganges, where millions gather each year to wash away the dust of time and begin anew. In this way, the Indus people are not gone. They live in gestures, in customs, in the shared heartbeat of the subcontinent. Every time a potter shapes clay upon a wheel, every time a woman draws water from a well at dawn, every time a farmer turns the soil after the rain, they continue a story that began 5,000 years ago. Perhaps the greatest legacy of the Indus Valley is not what it built, but what it believed, that harmony, not dominance, sustains life. In a world that later celebrated conquest, the Indus people celebrated connection. They traded not through war but through trust, building bonds that spanned deserts and seas. Their society left no signs of slavery, no monuments to rulers, no evidence of oppression. What endures is the impression of equality, a civilization where the many lived in balance rather than beneath the few. Their reverence for nature still echoes through India's spiritual traditions. The animals that once adorned their seals, the bull, the elephant, the tiger, the tree, remain sacred symbols today. The figure of the meditating deity on the Pashupati seal finds reflection in yogic postures and philosophies that continue to guide millions. Even the great bath of Mohenjo-daro, with its serene waters and steps descending on all sides, seems to foreshadow the ritual bathing ghats that line India's rivers, where the sacred and the ordinary meet in a single gesture. The Indus people's respect for water and cleanliness, their intricate urban planning, and their apparent gender balance reveal a worldview both advanced and deeply humane. They seemed to believe that the measure of civilization was not how tall one could build, but how well one could live together. Their cities were peaceful, ordered, and humane qualities that remain ideals even now. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine how that spirit might have survived not in monuments, but in memory, in the songs of rural India, where farmers still sing to the monsoon, in the quiet morning rituals beside a well, in the clay lamps lit at dusk, their light trembling softly like the stars that once shone above Mohenjo-daro. The Indus people may have spoken a language we cannot read, but their legacy is written everywhere in the rhythm of life that followed. Even their silence teaches something. When the archaeologists unearthed their cities, they found no weapons, no fortresses. Theirs was a civilization built not on fear, but on trust. It is rare in human history to find power so gentle, strength so quiet. They remind us that progress need not come through conflict, that greatness can rise from peace. As we look upon the ruins of their cities, half buried beneath the plains, it is easy to feel sadness to see in their disappearance a story of loss. But the Indus Valley teaches something subtler, that nothing truly vanishes. Just as a river that disappears into sand may re-emerge elsewhere, the wisdom of the Indus flowed onward through time, through culture, through the living memory of the land itself. Modern India still carries that inheritance. Its cities, crowded and vibrant, are distant echoes of the precision of Harappa. Its festivals celebrate water, rain and fertility, the same sacred cycles the Indus people honored. Even the concept of RTA, the cosmic order described in the ancient Vedas, may find its roots here in the Indus, understanding that balance is divine. When archaeologists and historians piece together the fragments of this lost world, they are not merely reconstructing ruins, they are touching a mirror. The Indus civilization reminds us of who we were, at our best intelligent, cooperative, deeply connected to nature. Their disappearance is a mystery, but their message endures. Imagine now the Indus River itself, flowing endlessly from the high peaks to the sea, carrying silt and memory. Its waters have touched every era, every people who came after. Even when it changed course, its essence remained, a thread of continuity weaving the past into the present. Standing by that river, you might feel a stillness, a sense that time has not truly moved forward or backward, but simply deepened. The same breeze that brushed across Harappa now moves through modern fields. The same stars that watched over Mohenjo-Daro now gleam above Karachi, Lahore, Delhi. History does not vanish. It transforms into the present, waiting to be remembered. And so, the Indus Valley civilization lives on in the wisdom of water, in the sanctity of cleanliness, in the architecture of balance, in the humility of silence. Its story is not one of loss, but of endurance. To listen to it is to be reminded of what endures beyond time, that humanity, at its heart, seeks harmony with the world around it, that civilizations rise and fade, but the river always remembers. Chapter 7: The River That Remembers. Night settles over the plains of the Indus. The wind softens. The last of the light fades into gold and violet, and the river gleams faintly beneath the stars. It moves as it always has, slow, patient, unending, carrying silt and memory, time and silence. If you listen closely, you can almost hear it speak. Its voice is not made of words, but of rhythm, the steady murmur of water against stone, the whisper of reeds brushing the surface. The river has seen everything. It has watched the rise of cities, the laughter of children in courtyards, the hum of trade, the quiet of prayers whispered at dusk. It has seen the people depart, the walls crumble, the sands reclaim the streets. And still it flows, unchanged, unhurried. The Indus River remembers. It remembers the weight of the first clay brick pressed by human hands. It remembers the scent of fire and rain, the glimmer of bronze tools under the morning sunday. It remembers the footsteps of merchants crossing bridges, the songs of women drawing water, the soft echo of wheels turning on dusty roads. It remembers the great bath shimmering in the light of dawn, the splash of cool water against skin, the ripples that widened and vanished. Everything that was still is, in some quiet form. The cities that once stood proud beside the river now lie beneath its dust, but their spirit drifts in the air, in the hum of the wind, in the curve of a pot, in the perfection of a line of bricks, in the order that underlies chaos. To walk here is to walk through time itself, not as a straight path, but as a circle. For the Indus people, time was not something to be conquered. It was to be lived within, like the rhythm of a tide. Their civilization was built on patience, the patience of bricklayers, of farmers, of the slow shaping of craft and ritual. Perhaps that is why it endured for so long, and why it lingers still, because it was never hurried, never wasteful, never cruel. Now, as we stand at the river's edge, we can feel that same stillness in ourselves. The air is cool, the stars are reflected in the water, trembling slightly with each breath of wind. Somewhere, far away, a night bird calls. The land is vast and silent. Close your eyes. Imagine the current moving past you, endless, gentle, carrying the dust of Mohenjo-Daro, of Harappa, of 1,000 forgotten towns. Imagine each grain of silt as a memory, a voice, a gesture, a thought. They drift past, unhurried, returning to the sea. This is how history truly moves, not in straight lines, not in the noise of battles or the dates in books, but in cycles. In the rising and falling of rivers, in the fading and returning of rain, in the way civilizations dream and dissolve. The Indus people were the first to understand that perhaps the greatest form of permanence is acceptance to build not against the world, but with it. When the archaeologists uncovered their cities, they uncovered not only walls and wells, but a way of seeing, a reminder that progress can be peaceful, that intelligence can be humble, that beauty can be functional. Their silence is not emptiness, it is fullness, waiting to be understood. And so, even in ruin, they teach us. They teach us to live with intention, to build with care, to share the water, to leave space for quiet. They teach us to listen, not only to each other, but to the earth itself, to feel the rhythm that underlies all things, the pulse of the river, the turning of the stars, the deep breath of the world asleep. The Indus people are gone, and yet they are everywhere, in the hands of a potter shaping clay in a small village, in the laughter of children splashing water from a well, in the meticulous geometry of city planners, in the quiet faith of those who still light lamps beside a flowing river. Their story continues, not in ruins, but in rhythm. If you ever visit the plains of Sindh or the banks of the Indus and stand where Mohenjo-Daro once stood, let your eyes close. Feel the wind on your skin. Listen to the water. You will hear it, the low, endless song of time, the sound of life enduring, the whisper of the river that remembers. It will tell you that nothing is ever truly lost, that civilizations, like rivers, are eternal in their essence. They change their course, their names, their forms, but the current remains moving quietly beneath the surface, shaping everything it touches. And as we leave this ancient valley tonight, let us carry that thought with us, that beneath all endings, something flows on, that beneath every silence, something still speaks. Take a deep breath now. Let it settle in your chest like still water. The world around you softens, the wind is gentle, the sound of the river fades into the rhythm of your heartbeat. You are part of this story too, one ripple in an endless stream of time. The cities have vanished, but their wisdom remains. The river still flows, and somewhere beyond the horizon, the world dreams on. Good night.